Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right. I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys.
We're sitting here with our lovely lemongrass incense today. I honestly am getting like Pez vibes from it.
I love it.
And it's really making me nostalgic. And a lovely crystal grid. So we're all witched out today.
Yeah, we love it. So I had a couple of shout outs that I wanted to do. Today I wanted to talk about one of our listeners, the T-Man81. He has his own divination tarot website. We'll put a link below, but for those who want to go right now without looking, you can go to tmantarot.wixsite.com. So that's tmantarotwixsite.com.
Yay! You should go check out T-Man. He's been a long-time listener, always supporting our podcasts. Lovely Instagram, and I trust this guy's tarot cards for sure. So if you want a good reading,
yeah, go see T-Man.
Yeah.
And then we also have listener Joy. She has a radio station kind of show that she does where she puts out good vibes and good Wiccan energy on Sunday mornings. And she comes out of Arizona and is on www.kbrpradio.com.
And those are just free shout outs because we love our listeners. Yes. We aren't charging for airtime.
No.
Like, literally, other people could charge hundreds of dollars for that. I find that to be interesting. But we just will shout you out if you're awesome.
Yeah. We like our listeners and want you hope the best for you.
Yeah. You know, we got to support each other's witchy endeavors because this is how we're going to create that witchy world we want to see.
Yes.
So.
I'm sort of disappointed right now, but like I had saved this information for me to tell you about this thing that happened, and when I went into the document that I created, it actually has questions from a listener rather than my information that I typed out.
Oh my gosh, you lost it.
I lost my information.
Oh no, can you, like, it's too late. It's been saved.
It's been saved.
So weird because I think you should just try to tell us what you can remember.
I will try the best to do this, but the other night the kids and I were decorating for Christmas and just having a good time, and the dog had to go to the bathroom, so I took the dog out and I was standing on the patio and something kind of made me look to the right and up in the sky because I kept seeing this kind of flashing light, and there was this extremely pulsating light that looked like as if someone was taking pictures, but it was flashing like in there was no pattern to it. It was flashing strangely. It wasn't like a real airplane. It was flashing strangely.
Not
it was
a
up
blinking.
higher. No, and it was up higher. It was not a satellite. I can say that I do live on a flight path, but I know the planes that go by, which this plane was going from the south to the north, and I was watching it, and this whole thing maybe took 30 seconds, if even that.
Okay.
So I'm seeing it. At this point, I can see that the dog's going back inside. I'm telling the kids to come out, and I've got my eyes just on it. So the kids come out onto the back patio, dog goes inside, and it's just going across the sky from south to north, kind of in an arc, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And as it reaches the middle of my backyard area, it seemed like it just sped up a little bit further. And then it passed an actual plane going the other direction. And you could see that the plane was at a lower altitude, which is like 500 feet or whatever. And this was up another 500 feet above it.
And what color was it flashing?
White.
Just white lights.
Yeah, and the plane had red and green and white, which is typical for a plane.
Red, all the way.
Yes. So it had red, green, white, and it was flashing, not strobing, but just flashing. It's random. Yeah. And this other thing, whatever it was, did not make any sound. I could hear the plane. I could not hear what this other thing was. And then,
what?
Yes, and then it gets even creepier because as it passes where the plane was at. It kind of went out a little bit further to where I had to walk into the middle of my backyard in order to see where it went, because you know how the horizon works. It's not like you're looking at one straight line. It curves. So this thing started arcing back around like it was going to come towards the plane. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I just had this immense fear through me. And my kids are like, what? It's arcing back around? And they ran back in the house and were like, Mom, come back inside. So we went inside. And then...
You're afraid of it spotting you?
I don't know what it was, but it felt like we just had this fear inside of us. And so I was kind of looking out, and I saw the plane go by, and that object had completely disappeared.
Wow. I want to say this is definitely a UFO.
It was weird. I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't a helicopter. I know it wasn't a drone. It was something I'd never seen before. So it's an unidentified flying object.
I think this is really cool. And when you first mentioned it to me, this is the first time we've talked about it really in depth, but when you mentioned it to me, I was like, ooh, try to see if you can figure out anything or contact MUFON, and you actually did that. So what was your experience attempting to start it like?
Yes, so I went on to MUFON, and I was like, okay, I want them to check this out. They actually explain to you ahead of time, or when you open up the document online, like it'll tell you, this is what we do to research. So
I guess we should say, what is MUFON?
MUFON is a mutual UFO network.
Right.
And so they, what they do is they take an experience that somebody had and they break it down. So they look at all of the evidence, look at the flights that had been going on that day, look at the military stuff, contact these people, and see if it was some sort of testing that was going on with the government, or if it really was a plane.
Which would have been such nice to get clarification.
Yes. So I filled out the whole document, and I went to go hit submit, and it said that I had to have some form of photo evidence. So it said photo, a drawing, a map.
It's like, how do you draw a blinking light in the sky?
Mm-hmm. And so I copied my information down, the story that I had written out, and I went to paste it in the document. And when I went back, the information on the website was completely gone.
No.
And I had saved the document, and as you heard, once I brought up the story to look at my story today, it had disappeared.
Those damned aliens. They're corrupting your Google Docs. Google Docs cannot be trusted.
I'm sure it's human error, but maybe they were doing that.
I mean, yeah, it could 100% be human error, but it almost feels like it's meant to be. Like, we can't submit all this information. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Synchronicity.
I was like, dang it. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess we'll just keep an eye on the situation.
Yeah.
I think if there's any UFO networks you guys know about, I was trying to figure out if there was like an Oregon one specifically.
I bet there is. They said on MUFON that they had chapters in every state and maybe in every country. I don't remember that. They said that they would have a representative from your area check it out. So
that would be so nice. So we just need to make a map.
I know. Oh my gosh. And I feel like as far as UFO experiences goes, I really haven't had that much. But I mean, obviously that's not my first encounter, but still it was different than I'd ever experienced before.
Yeah, it's definitely not your first, what you thought you've seen in the sky weird stuff, but I feel like it's just the aliens are drawn to you and you're drawn to aliens.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Absolutely. Interesting.
Anything else that we need to catch up on before we move on to some questions?
I don't think so. Let's go ahead and move on to what we've got going on.
Yes, we're going to do kind of a casual, laid-back episode. It's the holidays. We don't want to be doing heavy lifting on research.
Exactly.
And we've been trying, but it's just a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
So we're going to do some questions for you guys, and we have some great listener questions.
Yes, I'm excited because we posted at the last minute to ask for people to send in some questions, and we were able to get 3, so I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. Yay, thanks for questions, guys.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You want me to read this one, I guess?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have a question from Christina, and she says, my oldest daughter moved to Chicago this summer and has had lots of vehicle problems. Someone smashed her car up while it was parked on the street. We got her a new car, and then the Cadillac converter was cut off. Is there a protection spell or item I could place in it? And I did put an agate stone in there, a great object protection idea. Thanks. So.
Yes, and I think she got that from an episode that we had talked about agates in depth, and I think she got that from there. Remember I said I kept one in my car.
For protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great.
So,
You've got, a good start.
Yeah.
And I feel like with any kind of spell that you're doing, whatever it is, it's really all about your will and your intention and maybe how much you pour into it.
Right.
So there is a car spell that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm just going to share it with you here, and hopefully you find it helpful or useful. It's not necessarily just an object idea, but it's going to be kind of like sigil magic, more modern day sigil. And so you know how car decals are super common. Everyone's got car decals going on. I suggest that you go onto Amazon or wherever you want to buy a car decal and get a symbol that means something to you, whether it be like a lotus flower, a pentagram, triquetra. It could be a dog, whatever you want to put on your car. You're going to get this thing, you're going to bless it, maybe put some sage, incense on it, just kind of cleanse it, bless it with your energy, and then empower it with all this motherly protection that you can, and love and good vibes and safety and all of that. Pour it into it in a ritual, however much energy you want to put into this ritual, I say the better. Yeah. So you could do it kind of casual, or you could do it like a high ritual on the moon kind of thing. Full moon, all this good stuff. So really just put whatever kind of flair you personally have into your magic and go from there. And then when you're ready, slap it on the car. And I feel like that's an everyday sigil and reminder everywhere you drive, every time you look at it, catch a glance in it in your window. That's a reminder, and you're putting that intention into it kind of every time you see it.
I love this idea. This
Yay.
Is so great. Like, I could see people making their own stickers.
Exactly.
Even.
Yeah, you can get really creative, and I know that there's independent makers of stickers that will do any color you want, any pattern you want, any object you want. It could be anything, so it doesn't have to necessarily be a pagan or a witchy symbol. But I really think this is kind of like a modern take on some sigil magic that's kind of practical too and powerful.
Right.
Yay.
Really relevant to today's time period, so loving that.
I know. I haven't done it myself, and this has been an idea I've had for a while, so maybe talking about this and finally sharing this idea with you guys will inspire me to actually do it myself. So
yay, awesome.
Yeah, did you have any additional thoughts on car protection?
I guess I always say a spell right beforehand. I just say 3 times, protect this car, protect the people in it. It's just something real small. It's something that I started doing unintentionally when my children were little, and I just always kept it up. So yeah,
I think that's sweet.
Yeah, so that would be just my other thing.
It doesn't always have to be super elaborate.
Right.
Or cost any money.
Exactly.
It's really all about your intention.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have the same kind of little pattern and repetition that kind of builds upon that magic.
Right.
So to say it every time you get in the car, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
So, you want to read our next question?
Yeah. So our next one is from Crystal, and she says, long story short, I've had intense dreams lately, and I've had to write them down because they were that intense. It all started with a clean-cut mobster-looking man in a room of my coworkers in law enforcement training clothes. And he was just standing there smiling right at me as if I'm about to start the training. Then he vanished. And the strange part is, that night I had a psychic development circle, and one of the classmates came straight to me and said, the man in your dreams is your spirit guide, so trust him. And she says, is this common for a spirit guide to try and communicate through someone else just hours after seeing him for the first time? Plus, every night after that, my dreams are all about having to protect myself or my sons. I've had to protect my family from a hex before, but this is a whole different level. Is this what happens when your gifts grow?
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So, as far as the person who came up to you at psychic development, kudos to that person for being brave enough to come up and talk to you, because most likely what happened in my experience is that a spirit probably came and talked to him, and he had the courage to come up and say to you what exactly the spirit told him.
Yeah.
So some people hold back, and like I hold back a lot. I hear random things in the grocery store. I don't just walk up to every person I see and say, hey, so-and-so wants to talk to you.
I can totally understand why.
Yeah.
So definitely kudos to them. And also, I'm going to play devil's advocate just for why not. But can you trust this person? is this person implanting an idea or doing some sort of dream magic on you? I doubt it. This is just to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Like, why was this person yelling at you if they're your spirit guide? But
were they yelling? I thought it was just smiling. He was just smiling.
Oh, I thought it was like they were intense. I put my own. It said it was intense. A mobster-looking man in law enforcement training. Okay, intense you're right. Yeah, he's just standing there smiling at you. Smiling. Okay, my bad. So that's probably not what it is. So maybe, I don't know. What is your take? Because they don't know this mobster-looking person.
No. Okay. So I think if you get good vibes from this person, then maybe you should try to manifest or talk to this person. If it is supposed to be your spirit guide, I would try to talk to him. I mean, if you're going to bed tonight, or when you're going to bed tonight, I would suggest laying down and thinking of that dream, putting yourself kind of almost lucidly back into that dream or daydreaming about it, and see what your feelings are. Talk to that person. Like, change the dream to the way that you want it to go. Go up and actually talk to him. Don't be afraid. Just go up and talk to him.
True.
And see what he has to say.
That's a good idea. And it's a really good thing that you're able to remember your dreams right now. Yeah. Enjoy that, because that can ebb and flow like we've talked about. So if you're not, journal them, write them down. And it could be just a sign of your intuition being on a really good level right now, on a high vibration. Because if you are going to these meditation circles or psychic circles, that's a lot of energy in one small space, kind of amplifying each other and hyping each other up.
Right.
So that could be kind of feeding off of that, because I know when I was doing my regular yoga studio classes, my energy felt pretty high. So that was just, I think, getting out of my house and not just doing yoga in the house kind of thing. Like, it helps to be around other people.
Right.
And build towards that.
Yes. And also, when you're in a situation like that, maybe other people's residual type energy links onto you as well. And so you may be using that to bring your abilities to a different level. You're almost kind of like using their power. I know sometimes when I'm with other people, I sometimes accidentally take their energy and then use that to project my powers.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why you're feeling like you need to protect your family, because I know you were saying, it says in here, every night after that, the dreams are all about having to protect them.
Myself or my sons. What do you think that could be stemming from? So if you're having a dream about survival, that could be something with your root chakra. That's really connected with feeling connected to the earth and having those survival instincts.
Right.
So maybe your root chakra needs to be cleansed. Maybe there's an issue you're not dealing with.
Right. Meditate and kind of take a look at what's going on in your own life, in your own daily life, and your life with your children, whatever is happening underneath your own roof. Take a look at that and maybe write down, journal write about it. Just kind of sit down, take some deep breaths, and concentrate on the idea of what could be potentially causing it.
Yeah, those are some good exercises and suggestions. I guess with all of these things, we're not going to know all of the answers, but we can try to guide you with some tools or ways that work for you to figure it out. Right. But definitely keep trusting your intuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully that helps.
Yes.
Thank you for your question, Crystal.
Yeah, thank you.
So we had another question from Joy, and she is looking for the invocation to Bacchus. How do you say this?
I read it as Bacchus, and I kind of looked it up.
Bacchus. So she said that she's heard it before at a UU circle in Flagstaff, Arizona, and has been looking for it off and on for years. And can anyone help them out? So this is not something we're too familiar with offhand. Right. But what do you know just offhand about this god?
Bacchus is the Greek god of wine, or the Roman god of wine, that is the same person as the Greek god of wine, which is
Dionysus?
Yeah, Dionysus.
Yeah, so there's always going to be a different version. Yeah. Many names.
Right.
Okay.
So when I was originally looking up spells, I was like, wait, all of these are kind of newer. Because I've never called on Bacchus before. I don't really have my own. But I guess, what were you thinking?
Yeah, because there's so many invocations, so I did a quick Google search, but I'm like, well, if you've been looking for it for years, it's not the first Google invocation. I can't just read this to you and assume that that's the one you're looking for. But what we were thinking about, Wendy and I, is that you should just try to meditate with this god, make a relationship with this god. What better way than to get some wine, make a wine offering, spill some outside, put some on an altar, try to meditate, talk to them, light a candle for them, and maybe they'll inspire you to write your own invocation, and you can make your own, which would be, you know, 1,000,000 times more powerful.
Right.
And if anyone else knows this particular invocation, you know, hit us up and we'll try to send it to Joy's way.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for those listener questions. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's excuse me. It's nice to have like a back and forth with you guys and see where your head's at magically and what you need in your life. So it's fun to talk about different perspectives, and I would have never thought to even learn about Bacchus. So it's like nice to look up new things.
Yeah, something new. Love it.
You want to read our next question?
Yeah, so we have some personal questions that we wrote down that we kind of wanted to just talk about. So this next question is, what is up with Chupacabra? What do you think it is?
Yeah, what is up with Chupacabra? Because I am under the impression now, like, that Chupacabra has now been classified as a dog, but in the beginning, Chupacabra, I think in the 90s, there were all these sightings of, like, a bipedal beast.
Right, with like a goat head?
I didn't even know it had a goat head.
Yeah.
That's funny. I just knew they would say, like, red eyes. Sometimes I've seen it as, like, kind of reptilian or gremlin-like.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I bet it has many different,
right,
you know, depending on the tail.
Yeah.
And that there were all these dogs getting killed, domestic beasts getting killed, chickens getting killed, and everyone was investigating into it. And then, just like most of these cryptids, it got the name Chupacabra, like, stamped onto it.
Right. And so then everything creepy becomes a Chupacabra.
Any dead animal massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, my current, I guess, evolution of it is that I heard that they actually found the Chupacabra. There's, like, a taxidermy dog, and all it really was some new species.
Yeah, it was a hybrid between some rabid dog, I think, and a fox. Don't quote me on that because I didn't do any research, but I have seen some DNA, like some show they pulled out the DNA of what it really was.
And this was like that gray, hairless looking thing?
Yeah. It's just a type of hybrid mangy dog / fox. It was an interbreeding of animals that should not have been bred together.
Right. So I guess my thought is...
cats and dogs don't really...
breed.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that beast was really responsible for all these Chupacabra sightings?
I think that we're dealing with different animals.
Yeah.
So I think that what they found is what is considered to be today's Chupacabra. But the Chupacabra from stories prior to even 1990s, there's stories from Chupacabra back like in the 1500s, 1600s.
Really?
And this is the one that I know about a little bit, just very minimal, so I'm going to butcher it all.
Going off the cuff here.
Yeah, going way off the cuff. That it was a goat head blood-sucking animal.
It's almost like a goat.
Yeah, and they called that Chupacabra. So I want to know, I think the word Chupacabra in itself, it means something different to every generation. So I think back then, this was that creepy blood-sucking that actually attacked people, from what I understand, that it attacked people and sucked their blood.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah.
It's just like some sort of entity that we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how credible any of these witnesses are. I haven't looked into it. But it is a big phenomenon. Like, there's something going on. There's something killing the animals.
Right.
Sucking their blood,
right?
Yeah,
sucking the blood. But that was the old one. So in the 90s, you're right, it was just, mutilation of animals.
Okay. Interesting.
Which maybe they were just like, Chupacabra. So they heard all these stories throughout the years about a Chupacabra.
I was a little more unfamiliar with Chupacabra growing up in Bigfoot territory, and then moving down to Chupacabra territory when I got older. I remember I was in some sort of like wing bar, and on the news they literally had like breaking news, Chupacabra sighting, and I was just like, what? So I was super like, tell me more. What do you mean?
I need more information.
Yeah, please tell me more. So it's a cryptid I'm a little unfamiliar with, but I'm interested all the same.
I mean, I wouldn't take one as a pet, and unlike Bigfoot, I think I would try to find a way to run from a Chupacabra.
Yeah, no, right? Well, I mean, I love dogs, so can you imagine if it is just a dog? Like, I've tried to help random dogs on the street before who were just running around because, like, they were running around in traffic, and I was trying to, like, get over here. Yeah. So, would I try to help a chupacabra? Would it end up in the Humane Society? Like kind of Lilo Stitch situation?
Maybe. Oh my gosh. Just imagining you with this chupacabra. It's eaten 3 cats already.
But we have to keep this cryptid alive.
Yeah.
I guess it's no longer cryptid if they're saying it's real.
Yeah.
I don't know. The next question is, I want to kind of discuss our thoughts on the shamanic use of using ayahuasca.
Ooh. So ayahuasca, for those of you who don't know, is basically this kind of shamanic tea from the Amazon.
I'm not entirely
I think
sure.
It's from the Amazon, and it's basically the form of DMT and this other plant mixed together.
Yeah, and we did look this up one time, and it was 2 different plants, I want to say.
And you have to get the right amounts because it could kill you. It's basically a poison that makes you hallucinate and shit yourself.
Yes. Yes. And so I was like, I love the idea of having like these transcendental moments of meditation and you know, taking it to the next level. And then I was looking into it, realizing that there's a huge chance of either just having diarrhea and vomiting. Like there is this purge process. Yeah. I guess in a spiritual sense, it's like purging you before you can have that good journey and getting all the gross stuff out. But I was like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. That scares me. I have such a sensitive stomach that I could just imagine myself rolling around being uncomfortable for the whole experience.
Yeah, you're like, make this red stop. I know I have wanted to have a shamanic experience like that, and so I did look into it, and I guess they have these places like in Florida and in South America, but they make you do a whole diet regimen change before you even have the shamanic experience.
So how many days?
You have to purge your whole system out. So first you start eating right and doing exercise and meditating and doing all of these things to prepare your body.
You probably wouldn't have such a diarrhea vomit if you were doing it properly.
So then you have to fast for a day or 2 prior to actually taking
ingesting it.
Yeah, ingesting the tea.
What I find interesting is that it is illegal in the U.S. unless you're doing it under basically a church.
Right.
And
with
saying
shamanic.
For religious purposes. And so you did find a church in Florida, right?
Yes, where they have an actual shaman there that administers this stuff.
It's the only way really to do this thing.
Yeah, and you have to sign like a waiver saying that if I die from this experience.
Which I want to say is very rare. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that would happen.
No, you're worse, you're going to shit your pants.
Right.
But I guess...
Which is pretty embarrassing, but better than death.
Yeah, they're going to get you probably a little place to sit in a bucket.
Yes.
And probably be doing some drumming, some chanting. And I guess you're supposed to just kind of have visions. Yeah,
visions of the world and how it was created is what I've heard. And how we fit into it, and Mother Goddess, and just everything.
There's this show I watched because Chelsea Handler, the late night talk show host, comedian, she's very witty. She's down for these types of things, so she'll try different whatever. And so she went on a journey. She traveled out of the country to do it, and her first night, it was herself and 2 people in her life. I don't remember who they were, but like they got super messed up and sick. Chelsea felt nothing.
Yeah, well, she drinks every day of her life.
She drinks. She'll do microdosing mushrooms. Like she's on another level. And so the next night she goes back. She didn't even get sick. The next night she goes back, and the shaman's like, "All right, we're giving you this big old dose. You're going to feel something." And so she does it again with him all night, going solo. Her friends will not go back because they said it was like horrible. And then she finally got the ayahuasca to hit, and she starts tripping, and you can watch it, and it's cool because I wanted to know how this works.
Yeah.
And the shaman has like, I want to say some sort of leaf, and he's got his smoke, and he's just chanting the whole time in front of her. Jeez. And she's having this journey. She says that she goes back to seeing herself and her sister playing on a beach, and like she just kind of like realized this whole new part about their relationship and blah 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 blah. But it was just really cool because you can watch someone go through this process. And so it's, I don't know, like I would be very afraid to let go and experience sickness.
Yeah.
But
I saw another thing. Josh Gates from Expedition Unknown, he did it.
Okay.
And his experience was different, but he did talk about how he like saw the first tree that ever existed.
What? He saw like a tree of life symbols?
Yeah, and they had to cut the feed because he was like, okay, I'm going to get sick now. Can we just cut? Something bad's going to happen. So I don't know what happened. I'd like to think he didn't crap his pants, and thank goodness they turned it off. But
so that's cool to see how other people get affected by it.
But yeah, Chelsea, I mean, she's been prepping her whole life for this.
Yeah, she says she'll take shrooms and then go skiing.
Yeah.
Like,
she
dang!
does all these weird things.
Yeah.
She, like, doesn't hold back.
No, not at all.
Can all kind of learn from that. Just stop holding back so much.
Like, you want me to go skiing on shrooms?
No. Not quite that much. Okay, so what's our next question? Okay, in your opinion, who are the Men in Black? Not Will Smith and
Tommy Lee Jones. Exactly, in that really catchy 90s song. I used to have to dance to that song in my gym class. Like, that was our exercise, is we would do line dances to Men in Black.
Nice.
So that is what my mind jumped to. You know, really, I feel like the Men in Black did kind of stem from this whole Mothman phenomenon, which we did cover. Mm-hmm. And there's insinuation that they are linked to an otherworldly species.
Right.
So I guess that's where my mind is.
Right. I waver on the fence because it's like for a long time I believed that they existed, but still to this day I've never seen one. So I'm just like, in my mind I'm like, are they real?
Were they a thing of the past? Because
I feel like they are. Like, I feel like maybe they were a part of that Majestic 12 CIA kind of stuff and undercover agents, like actual undercover agents. Mm-hmm. And ebe they're not getting funded anymore, so therefore they don't exist. I mean, how many times do you hear people talking about it in today's
right, because the UFO government branches have changed names so many times.
Right.
So if you're thinking it's just a government agency, it's just really weird, the whole thing.
Right.
What if they were like an alien task force that doesn't get funded anymore, or they're more experienced and they have better means than being bumbling idiots? Because like in John Keel's book Mothman Prophecies, they sound like kind of bumbling idiots sometimes.
But in other cases, like, didn't we come across them in Roswell?
Yeah.
And so in that situation, they didn't sound like idiots, they sounded like aliens.
And maybe aliens by now have way more intel on us, where they're not super confused by things like Jell-O and forks.
Right.
And fashion.
Now they have a handbook that they give out to other aliens who visit.
Yeah.
Or who were born here.
Yeah. So I'm not too sure about these Men in Black.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I guess I'm on the fence. So let's play what if they were real aliens, if they were real aliens. Like, if one knocked on our door right now,
asked to come in,
would you let him in and would you talk to him?
No, I do not let random men in my door. And anytime I've ever talked to just some random person at the door, they've tried to read me scriptures from the Bible.
Right.
I've been swindled. They were like, I'm just doing something for school to do research. Yeah, can I read you a passage? And I was like, for school, sure. And then like they started going on their spiel, and no.
Yeah.
All the questions you've ever asked me about, like, opening myself up to experiences, the answer is usually no, unless it's, like, magical. So, you'd let them in, wouldn't you?
No, because I, too, recently have had a man in a suit come and knock on my door. But when I went, it's not what you think. It's more on the lines of what you dealt with.
Okay.
So I opened the door and there's this man in a suit and he looked very strange to me. Like he was bald and he just had a strange looking face. And I was like, this is finally happening. This is a Man in Black. But it wasn't. He was like, do you have time to read my pamphlet? And I'm like, get out.
Not today, Satan. Not today.
Yeah. Get out. I didn't let him in. I let the dog bark at him and almost nip at him.
Yeah.
It's so horrible of me. That's not very nice.
I know. But it's just, you can't go to the people's door, I feel like.
If you entertain them, they will come back.
Right.
and try to change you into their religion, and I don't want that.
Right. And it's a kind of a weird construct because it's like, who's forcing you to come do this? And then it makes you think of like kind of cultish situations.
I mean, all religions are a cult in a way.
It has the capability.
Don't stone me for saying that, but...
Right. Because it's a lot of conditioning.
Yeah. I'm a protection circle around just in case negative energy comes from it. No.
I thought the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay, what's our next question?
So let's discuss the magical properties of food.
Ooh, food.
So food is not something I am great at. I don't enjoy cooking that much.
Right.
But I did look up a couple things.
Okay, so tell me what you got.
So I looked up almonds, and so they are associated with the god Hermes and Mercury, and they bring wisdom and prosperity by stimulating your intuition and insight through your third eye chakra, which I think is great because almonds are such a good healthy snack.
I'm like, does that go for almond milk? Because I drink almond milk.
Me too. I'm gonna say yes. And they're really associated with magic, too, because if you think about it, magical wands, they're often made to make, our wood is made out of almond wood and stuff like that. So there's an association with magic. Another one that I thought was a really cute one that's associated with magic are apples. And they're actually associated with being known as the fruit of the gods. It's a very powerful source of spiritual energy that encourages balance and harmony. And with Samhain, I know that's a big deal around Samhain. You're supposed to consume apples. I never do because I'm never a fan of apples, but I feel like I should. Because obviously if you cut the little apple in half, there's the star. And that was something I was always taught as a kid. But really, that's like a pentacle. That's like a pentagram.
Right.
So it's been associated with the occult for years, which I didn't think about. Yeah. And of course, it's got, associations with like knowledge with the whole biblical texts. But yeah, it's supposed to be the gateway to occult powers. And the Egyptians used to offer apples to their highest and most powerful priests, whom they considered to be guardians of hidden knowledge. Which when I read that, I thought about how we offer them to teachers.
Yeah, that's right. That's awesome.
Right? So that's kind of like, is that where that tradition started from? It's like a symbol of like, I respect you. Here's an apple teacher. You give me wisdom.
Very cool.
Yeah. And in the Middle Ages, apparently sliced apples were used to foretell the future, and eating them regularly was said to enable a person to live for over 200 years. And it's always been a saying, like, eat an apple away, keeps doctor away. It's supposed to be good at keeping cancer away. So maybe I should change my mind about apples.
Right, just eat some applesauce. It's just as good.
Oh, is it? I love applesauce.
And then put cinnamon on it.
Perfect. We were raised on that.
Yeah. I was like, I have jars of it that we've made.
Okay, I'm good. I can do applesauce all day. All day. And that's one thing I think is one of my weakest points in magic is I'm not really hands-on in the kitchen. I'm not hands-on with the herbs. I'm not hands-on with putting my intention into my food.
Gotcha.
But what about you?
I definitely cook with magic, I feel like. I'll use yesterday as an example. My daughter made homemade dough, and then we made homemade pizzas. And when she was stirring the yeast into it, she did 3 stirs clockwise and put her intentions into it, and I did 3 stirs counterclockwise and put my intentions into it. So then we ate as a family with all of our intention. Yeah,
so that's more like magical, putting the properties in the food.
Yes, which is what I do constantly.
Yeah.
So every meal that I make. And sometimes, like yesterday too, we read the yeast. So sometimes I divine with the food as well.
Ooh.
And so I know in the past, and this is going to sound hilariously funny and maybe a coincidence, but to me it was not. But I had made stew in the crock pot all day. We ate it and I put the leftovers away, and then I went to soak the pan or the pot into the sink, and after it filled up there was a floating witch in the pot.
Like you just saw the silhouette of a witch?
Yeah. And I was like, my whole family came over and looked at it and was like, what? You did this to us. And it was after that I realized, I have been putting magic in my food all along.
Yeah. I definitely think you've been cooking with intention. Because we talked about that when you were talking about your, was it granny magic?
Oh, yeah, granny magic.
So, definitely a loving mom putting that energy in. Yeah.
No pimples for you. No.
Ooh. That would be such a perfect witch mom. No pimples.
Yeah, right?
That would be nice.
I mean, I wasn't successful. My kids still got them, but...
But if it was quintessential perfect life, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the next one is, now that the whole Storm Area 51 thing is over with, let's talk about what we think Area 51 is and the government response to this event. So did you know anything about the Area 51? I know we didn't talk about it on podcasts because I just felt like it wasn't worth talking about.
I felt like everyone else was talking about it. Like, what else could I possibly say? But it was interesting because what I saw was that there was a lot of people using that to exploit it, and on the Las Vegas Strip they were having all these raves and parties, and so that was kind of one thing that it turned into. The guy who started the Facebook event was at that rave and party, and then people who actually went kind of close to the Area 51 area were just camping out and talking and just sharing their belief in the UFOs, and it was kind of like a cute little community moment.
Right.
And that's what I kind of liked about it. People who were serious about it took the time to drive out there. They met like-minded folks.
And they're talking about doing it again every year, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, really? I don't really know if the government cared, other than, like, you guys can't come over here. You can't disrespect our boundaries.
But to me, that said that they weren't saying it doesn't exist. I feel like this was the first definitive proof that we've had them say, this exists. Otherwise, what else are we protecting?
Well, isn't it just I mean, I don't know too much, so you can tell me. So aren't they just saying it's just a military base? Obviously, you're not allowed.
But they've, for years, denied that anything was there in the first place.
But it's not for citizens to ever cross.
Right. But for a long time, they said it wasn't even military.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I don't know all the details.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't seem surprising.
To me, I was just like, oh, so they're not denying it anymore. They're not saying that it's not a military installation. It is a military
And they will shoot you if you try to go over there. Yeah, so do not Naruto run.
Yeah.
To Area 51.
That was so dumb. That is so dumb. But so it kind of makes me want to go over there. That little town, Rachel, Nevada, looked really cool. And I've driven through there, but I've never stopped. Like, I've been on the ET highway, but I've never stopped. I just didn't have time.
Do you think that there were aliens at Area 51, or?
I think that I can't speak as to whether there were aliens at Area 51, although Bob Lazar says that there are, so
at least crafts, right? Oh, he did say he saw an alien.
Yeah, I do believe him, so I guess. I know for certain that they test craft out there. I don't think I talked about this on the podcast, but I took a wrong turn on the way to Vegas one time with my family. We were driving from Oregon to Vegas, and I accidentally turned down this road.
Accidentally?
I did. Like, I got lost.
You just ended up at Roswell. Sorry, guys.
I was like, okay, so I took this wrong turn, and I did come across something that said, do not cross these, or you will be shot. And I was like, is this Area 51? I'm just going to back up. There were these armed guards that started coming towards the thing, and my sister was in the passenger seat, and she's like, just back up right now. The kids were asleep in the back, and I'm driving this mom van. And like, I obviously got lost.
Was this pre-Google Maps?
Yeah. I mean, it was like I had to print out the maps and put them on my seat. This was like 2000.
I just feel like it's almost like Jack Sparrow's compass. Like, your heart just points you to aliens.
No, I'm all driving out there. Family. Oh, Becky.
I feel like there's some alien energy, and you would just turn. If there's a UFO, you'd look up. If there's...
It's like dowsing rods.
Yes! You just have alien energy.
I love it. I love this explanation. Oh.
This next one is a big question. I feel like you should read this next one as well.
Okay. So John Keel has a quote. When you start looking at the paranormal, it starts looking back, just like in the double slit experiments that they did, I think, in the early 90s. And so do you think that the supernatural phenomenon has a mind of its own, or is it just messing with us, or do you think we create it? So for those of you who don't know who John Keel is, he is this dude who had written a bunch of books about UFO experiences, and he went and interviewed people about them.
Right, including Mothman prophecies and many more.
Right, and he said the more that he looked at the paranormal, he started noticing that it started looking back. And so interesting that I had never really heard that quote before, but then I heard that quote, and I have been starting classes up again for school. So I was studying, and the first lesson that I did was on the double slit experiment, which happened.
Yeah, what is that?
So it just reminded me exactly of what Keo was talking about. So basically the double slit experiment, and hopefully I say this right because I'm not a scientist. I'm going to talk like a stupid human. But basically it is that these scientists wanted to know how atoms and molecules work. So what they did was they took this sheet and they took this piece of cardboard or wood or something, and they cut a slit down the middle of it and they shot these atoms through. This was like at CERN or something like that. So they shot them through. And on the other side, it was just one line because they were all going through one hole. There was one line. And so then they did the same thing with water. And the water goes through and there's just one wave hitting the board. One wave. So then they decided to put 2 lines through the board. And they shot atoms through both lines. The water through the both lines. And then they found out that more waves accumulated, and when they hit the board, they were just all over the place. So they expected when they shot the atoms through that it would be 2 lines, because in the first experiment, when you shot the atoms through with one line, it was just one line on the other side. And so when they shot it through 2 lines, it was all over the place like a wave is. Instead of being in 2 straight lines like the number 11. That's what they thought they would look through. So what they did was they took these cameras and put them to watch the atoms so that they could go back and slow motion watch. And when they shot the atoms through this time, they did what they were supposed to be doing. They formed a number 11 on the other side.
Is that because they're being watched?
Yes, because they were being watched.
Right. So it's about like how different, would you use the word atoms or molecules, they react to being looked at?
Yeah, as soon as they were looked at, they did what they were supposed to do.
I've heard this theory, like that basically time and space almost reacts to us. And if you believe in magic, of course you believe that that's true. It's almost like magic and science coming together. If you believe in the paranormal, of course, like that makes sense. I don't know what that is on a scientific level, but I can only speak, like you said, as a humble human, basically.
I'm just a human with my tiny brain.
But it is interesting, like, especially with the paranormal, if you feed energy into it, it's going to talk to you more. You're going to have more synchronicities. So as far as this whole thing goes, what do you think?
I mean, obviously I believe in the paranormal. And all the supernatural. I think that it's its own, that they're their own separate entity. We just don't see them in the same way because they're not solid like we are a lot of times. So like ghosts, for instance. They're not made out of the same substance as we are.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that they don't exist.
Yeah. And wherever they're coming through or however they're communicating is so different.
So if you talk to it, it might talk back to you.
Exactly.
If you look at it, it's going to show itself more and more. And that kind of goes along the lines with that listener question earlier. She said, is this common? So the more that you invite that into your life, the more and more it envelops your life.
I totally believe that, because like just taking walks outside when I look for signs, I feel like I'm inviting that kind of energy into me. So the more I look for signs, the more signs I'll get, the more clear they'll be.
Right.
So yeah.
Now it just happens and I don't freak out about it anymore.
Exactly. It's just like, oh yeah, there's that symbol over there in the trees that I can see. I just go with your intuition, and those 2 birds over here mean this. I like it.
Okay, so we have one more.
One more. And let's talk about ghost respect.
Right.
I feel like we've been podcasting just over a year. In the beginning, everything about ghosts shocked me, surprised me. I was so curious. And at the end of it, now I'm just realizing ghosts need respect, and they don't get that very often.
Yeah, they're just humans and energy. And people are constantly frightened of them for no apparent reason. Yeah.
And that fear turns into a lot of disrespect. People treat it like it's evil. They say bad things about it.
Or it's a demon.
Yeah. Or even how people ghost hunt. Like if you're going to go, let's say just to like the Lizzie Borden house and just start demanding for her to talk to you and demand that she does this, or start screaming at her to talk to you. Like that's so disrespectful.
Very.
And being a witch, I'm realizing, I think I've been working with ghosts more than I even realize it. Like, if you're asking to talk to your spirit guides, your ancestors. You're doing magic with ghosts.
Yeah.
And spirits, and they can help you greatly if you respect them, leave offerings, talk to them. You can have a really cool like partnership with them. So I feel like it's time to stop disrespecting them and maybe start leaving them offerings and paying more homage to the dead.
Or ask them what they want. They don't have to stay if they don't want to.
Or help if they don't want to. So I don't know. You've been seeing ghosts your whole life. Do you think that they would even care at the notion of respect?
I think so, because I think if it's just like a human being. Do you just want to be walked on and somebody calling you a dick the whole time, like in your life? Do you just want to be walking down the street and somebody just randomly comes up to you and is like, I hate you, get out of my life, get out of my house?
No.
Wouldn't you just eventually, after getting berated over and over again, scratch somebody? Try to react back, open all these cabinet doors? Throwing dishes on the floor.
Like, this was my house.
That was your food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we could learn to live with them, learn from them.
I mean, they're just people too, in a way. Just made out of different material at the moment. Like, I used to be really attracted to watching all of the ghost shows, like, all the time. Like, I needed to be watching all of the paranormal ghost hunting shows. And now when I watch them, I feel like my mindset has changed a little bit, because I feel like it's all theatrical and it's not the truth of what really happens.
Yeah, they're just trying to make good television.
Occasionally you get some really good ones who want to get to the root of what's happening.
Yeah. What was the one that you had when we watched the other day where they went to this Lizzie Borden's house?
That was...
They were very respectful.
Yep, I'm going to look it up really quick.
Yeah, they were really respectful. They actually went to her house that she moved into after the murder of her family. And Lizzie apparently changed her name and wanted to kind of change her identity, so they used that name. And they removed all the paraphernalia that had anything to do with the murder case because they felt like that was not good for her.
Right. It was Kindred Spirits.
Kindred Spirits.
On TLC. Yeah.
So there's a way to do things that's a lot more respectful than just like, because you're there on vacation and you want to see something cool.
Right.
Demand it. Try to have a good conversation and actually get to know them.
Right. You might be surprised what you learn.
So the more we do this, the more normalized it gets for me, and I'm less shocked, and I'm just realizing maybe we should treat ghosts a little better, guys.
Yeah. Love it.
So keep sending in your questions. We love doing casual episodes like this where we can just riff, without having to learn too many things back to back every week and keep up with it all. And, the next time you can find us, we'll be posting every Wednesday for our podcasts. And in the meantime, you look us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Cousins Coven. And you can check out our blog over at cousinscoven.home.blog. That's where you can find our witchy words of wisdoms, some of our spells, and all of our archive podcast episodes from season 1. And if you do want to ask us any questions, send those into cousinscoven2@gmail.com, and we'll definitely get to those in a future episode. We love to hear from you guys, so like, subscribe, and share with all of your witchy and weirdo friends.
And may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and joy in each other. Blessings to all.